Hello, and welcome to our series, Divine Disruptors. This is going to be an interfaith YouTube series where we will dive deep into how we are guided by the divine guidance and how our highest power guides our journey. And my name is Erin Ropolato, and I am here with our guest today with Becky Nieves. Becky, how are you?
Good. How are you, Erin?
Good. We're so excited to have Becky here. And let me just tell you just a little bit about Becky. Becky is a no BS cycle breaker coach who knows firsthand what it's like to cut ties with toxic family relationships and patterns. After making the gut-wrenching decision to go no contact with her family, her own parents, she turned years of pain, guilt, and self-doubt into a powerful mission. She's helping women reclaim their lives, rewrite their stories, and break generational curses once and for all. Her story is a testament to the grit that it takes to say enough is enough and to choose yourself and to carve out a future where peace isn't just a fantasy, it's a reality. And so we're excited to talk with Becky today. Becky, what are some other things that you would like to tell us a little bit more about your story to help us to understand where you're coming from?
No, absolutely. And that bio makes me sound so much more special than I am, but really no.
You are special. We're
Um,
very grateful to have you.
well, thank you. Yeah, no, it highlighted the salient points of why I do what I do. I am also a very busy mom of four. I have to thank Erin for her graciousness because as we are recording this, I'm in my car in the dance studio parking lot. So thank you very much, Erin, for being so accommodating. As I said, I have four children, ages 21, 13, 9, and 3. Two of them are neurodivergent. One has a rare disease. I'm also very passionate about public education and reading and literacy. And my journeys, I have to take on projects that I feel are, and I talk with my hands, so I'll try to sit on them. Um, but no, definitely my journey has taken me in a lot of different directions and a lot of different roads and a lot of different inner work that I've had to do for sure.
Oh, definitely. I totally get the sitting in the car. Mine used to be during soccer practice.
I did
My,
that too.
I have three that played soccer, and so I was usually in the parking lot at the park watching them for practice, and because it was longer to go back home and to turn around and come back.
Which is why I'm here. Yes.
Yes, you get a lot done in the car as a mother, as a entrepreneur, as all the things. We're so glad to have you here, Becky. And I want to go back. You said just a moment ago about you've got four children and they're right wide range of ages.
Yes,
And
it's never
so,
boring here.
yes. And so I want to dive deep into what got you passionate too, even about this breaking ties with things that are not aligning with the values and the things that you really hold dear to your heart.
No, so it took decades and decades of work. I would say around the age of 14, I began to question something wasn't quite right with my family, and I didn't know what it was. And at the age of 14, I thought I was so smart. And I said, I'm going to get a degree in psychology and figure it out. And that's what I did. I did get a bachelor's degree in psychology. I graduated college, still could not figure it out. So here I am at the age of 23. Still, my father is a narcissist. My mother was his enabler. And I could not figure out the dynamics of why couldn't I just have a normal family? Why are things so difficult? And I went through periods of trying to set up boundaries, going no contact, begging and pleading with my father to go to therapy, which he did, but it was pointless. It's very difficult to treat a true narcissist, which I understood that having a psychology degree. And it got to the point for me as a parent when I started seeing those cycles being repeated in the way that I was parenting and seeing how the toxic relationship between myself and my parents were affecting them and the types of questions that my children were asking me. Why are you always fighting with Pop Pop? And why haven't they been like those types of questions? And that's what kind of ultimately did it for me after, again, decades of since childhood, of my own childhood, of going back and forth with my parents to finally saying, this, it ends with me. And I did a lot of soul searching throughout this time. I was actually raised Catholic. While in college, also in getting my psychology degree, I used that opportunity to also explore other religions. I studied Judaism, I studied Buddhism, I studied Islam, and I saw a lot of the connecting patterns in the different religions, of course. And it all boils down to the same. We all just want to be good humans and raise good humans. I think we can all agree on that. But I spent a lot of time definitely angry at God and angry at the universe. And it was like, why me? Why another thing, another obstacle, another block? And the shift of being able to move past all of that was when I said, why not me? And why is this happening for me as opposed to why is it happening to me? And that's when I was able to shift that narrative.
Ooh, I love that. And I have heard that many times. When we do have hard things or difficult things or different things than others that we see around us, asking that question, why not me? What can I do different
Mhm.
in this situation? And with that. So tell us just a little bit more about how did you make those steps forward after this? When you talked about, we talked about in your bio, you talked about you cut ties with those that were making life a little bit more difficult for you and for your immediate family that you were trying so hard to protect in a healthy way.
Yes, it was not without a lot of mistakes, and I probably could have handled things a lot better, which is why I do what I do now to prevent other women from going through those same mistakes that I did. Generally, I always tell people there's always that straw that breaks the camel's back, right? There's always that proverbial moment, I think, where you finally shift from victim perspective to a more empowered perspective.
Mhm.
And in my case, I remember the exact moment that it was for me, where I was on the phone with my father, and this revolves around my child who has a rare disease. She will have a lung condition when she gets older. So as a parent, our job is to do everything we can to protect her lungs. Both of my parents were smokers, and they could not understand that I can't go to your house because you smoke in your house, and no, you can't come to my house and smoke in my house, or even step outside to smoke because secondhand smoke and all the dangers and things like that. And I remember my father telling me, "Oh, you think you're too good, now you're educated, whatever, all the things." And he's, "What are you going to do? Keep your kids in a bubble?" And I said, "No, I can't keep them in a bubble. But what I can do is control the things that I can control. And them being around you is one of them." And I pretty much told him to go to hell. And I threw the phone across the room. And at that point, my one daughter was 3 at the time. She was there for that exchange. And I said, "What am I doing? What is it?" It was the compounding events of her witnessing that exchange as also dealing with my other child's health concerns as well. And I said that we can't do this anymore. The stress, the anxiety, and again, the stress that comes with being married, having children, then dealing with children with chronic health conditions. I just did not need this other thing that was in my power to control, whether or not I chose to have a relationship with them or set up boundaries. And that was the choice that I had to make.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it is, those are hard decisions to make. But listening to your story, there's layers of reasons why. Health, number one, is a big thing. And especially where you can control things to a point to help your daughter with her lungs to be better with that. So I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago, Becky, if that's okay. You talked
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
during this time, maybe during your college years, your 20s, you had this soul searching time. You said you were raised Catholic, but you explored lots of different things. Tell me a little bit about what is your guiding belief right now at this point in your life?
Right now, I would say I'm more spiritual than religious. I do believe there is a divine power. I call it the universe. And
Okay.
when I talk about how I'm guided, I do say the universe has done X, Y, and Z for me, or the universe is opening this door for me. Man and our existence on this earth, I think, is too complicated to just say it, that there's nothing beyond.
Mhm.
Why do we have a consciousness? Why do we build memories and learn and evolve? There has to be something greater than us. And I've never not believed that. Whether or not it's structured or not, that's always what's up for debate. But definitely. And once I stopped being angry at the universe for the multiple, and my life definitely does sound like a great tragedy sometimes, surely. But one, I've learned to find the humor in it, and I've learned to find the strength in it. And I found my purpose in this is what, again, like when my daughter was diagnosed with the condition that she was. I said, why God, universe, whatever you want to call it, why another thing? And it was very quickly revealed to me. It was, I was there to be an advocate. So I ended up leaving the work that I was doing. I became involved with the nonprofit that was dealing with her rare disease. I now sit on that board of directors for that organization. And it was my job to be an advocate for her for rare disease legislation and all types of things. And that led me to public education and advocacy and that. So every little thing that happens and it opens a different door. And things that I think don't happen to you or the door that isn't open, it just wasn't meant for you.
Yes. Oh, that's so good to think about actually just finding that universe or whatever is calling your name and giving you those different life purposes, and that opens so many things, I think, with the advocacy work, the education, the health aspects of different things. It just opens up lots of things. So going back to, you talk about how you felt guided in these different avenues. How does the universe speak to you and guide you?
Yeah, I find that when I am quiet and still, if I just tune into my intuition is very strong. And I've noticed that I generally get into trouble in my life when I do not listen to my intuition. That's a very hard lesson I've learned in my youth. And now before I embark on any decision, I always give myself time to pause, which is a very hard thing for me. I am a reactor and I'm a fixer by nature. So
Mhm.
generally, when there's a problem or a question, my gut reaction is to give guidance, advice, that sort of thing. And it's taken some time for me to learn to listen, slow down, and actually ponder my response before I give it. And I would say 99% of the time, my gut is right.
Awesome. So you talk about the quietness and stillness. Do you have a pattern or some routines that you do each day to find that time for stillness and quiet? Or is it just, what does that look like for you? Finding
Yeah,
that.
I did definitely try a routine. I've set alarms on my phone where I know that, hey, this is the time I'm supposed to pause. But given my very hectic life, that did not last very long. So I take the moments as they come. For me, generally, I have a very active 3-year-old. So my alone times are generally like shower times. So I do some of my best thought processes and working things out in the shower. Or, like I said, I do spend a lot of time in my car. So while I'm driving, that's when the majority of my inspiration definitely hits for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I can totally relate to that in lots of areas. Like my quiet time, a lot, there is shower time that nobody else is bugging you and nobody else is around. And it's good. And
Yeah.
car time is also another great time. And I just think, just as women, a lot of times, especially with children, we can't have some structured time. Sometimes we can if we're willing to wake up like an hour before them, but for most of us, that is not on the docket because we value the sleep that we can get while the rest of the
Absolutely.
house was sleeping too. And and it's just like that. The other thing that reminds me of is just that finding that quiet and stillness does look different for everybody. And even it looks different in the day to day because my Mondays are not the same every week, or my Tuesdays or my Mondays and Tuesdays are not, they don't even even resemble the sameness that you can have a set schedule. And
Yes.
I think that's
I
something that we
envy
as
yes, I
moms
envy
do.
those people who try. I remember I had somebody recommend to me one time, "Why don't you try time blocking?" And I'm like I was like, "Thank you for the suggestion," and I moved on, but yeah, like you said, none of our days look quite the same. Time block tell my 3-year-old that I have to time block this time to content create or something like that. So it's a funny suggestion, but appreciated nonetheless.
Yes. And for some people that works great, and for the majority of people it does not. But it reminds me, there was a reel I saw, oh, probably a year and a half ago, that this lady did this parody on this guy who talked about he's single, like in his 40s or whatever, and his what his day looked like. He had 2 to 3 hours of serene time in the morning before he exercised, all this stuff. And she was making it like she had children, like 4 or 5, I think, and just it's totally different. You are on the go from every second of the day trying to raise these good humans, like you talked about earlier, just like that's what we're trying to do. And so tell
Yes.
us, Becky, just a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about more your advocacy work that you are doing. I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Yeah, so I've taken a little pause from that now, but I've spoken to the FDA. I've spoken at conferences in regards to the disparity in healthcare coverage in rare disease and allocation of government funding, the lack of funding for rare diseases, which is something I'm very passionate about. 1 in 10 Americans has a rare disease. Somebody with a rare disease. You may not know that, but you definitely know somebody
Yeah.
who has one. and it affects, and the majority of them actually are children, and 95% of rare diseases do not have an FDA approved treatment. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's so hard to raise awareness for rare disease because when you say breast cancer, you say diabetes, things of that, everybody's, oh goodness. If I say Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, the first question I get is, huh? And then the second question is, how do you spell that? So that's the condition that my daughter has. So it's definitely a constant cycle of bringing awareness and then, of course, advocating for that awareness. Now, in my advocacy work for public education, one of the other parts of my daughter's condition is she is legally blind. So she has an IEP in public education. So that got me involved with other special education parents. And again, the disparity in education and allocation of resources there. And I cannot help myself because I am a sucker for an underdog and I have a cause and I dig my heels in pretty well. And I'm a pretty stubborn individual. So I took that advocacy. I started out just in parent teacher association groups. I ended up in the special education parent groups, and there was a parental advisory group. Then there was a citizens advisory group. And then eventually, because again, I tend to escalate a little bit, I ended up running for the school board. And I spent 3 years serving on my school board. So I became an elected official, which was not on my bingo card at all whatsoever. But my thing has always been my signature method. I always say I abide by the WIT method, and that's whatever it takes. That's how I've lived my life. That's how I guide my clients. That's how I raise my children. Each child is different and has their own unique personality, and it's worked out so far for me.
Oh, good. And we need good advocates, people that are willing to step up. And I loved how you added that you're stubborn, and that makes for a good advocate
You
doing
have
that.
to be because you get a
You
lot of no's and a lot of we don't
and you
want to
just have
hear
to
it. So yeah,
consistently press through that. And I just as my former I used to teach in the education system. I was a kindergarten teacher before my daughter was born, and just I had to be an advocate for my students of what was best for them and their parents. Just I worked at an inner city school, and it was just like we need to get the resources that these kids need that are coming in learning English as their second language. We need more things, and so it's always a benefit to fight for those that are underdogs too with that.
thank you for being a teacher. I have the utmost respect for educators. I never could do it myself. So that's why I always give a lot of props to those who have chosen to educate because it's not an easy field to be in, for sure.
Yes, it's not, and it's not. Yeah, it's a very different. We'll leave that conversation for another day.
Another day.
I haven't been in the education field for 21 years. I have done some subbing and a little bit and helping, and I helped with my kids volunteering at the schools and stuff and doing those kinds of things and fighting for the things that were needed for the to support the teachers. Actually, is what I was one thing that I was passionate about doing because I had been there,
Yeah.
those different places that you have been, and also just helping to find the best education for our children and getting them the resources that they need with that. And
Absolutely.
anyway, I've just loved this conversation that we've had. How do you see the universe guiding you in the next 6 months? What do you have in the docket? Did you
Oh,
know?
I do. I finally feel like I have stumbled upon my purpose. My purpose was always pretty clear. It just has changed and shifted. I've loved the work that I've done in rare disease advocacy. I've loved the work I've done in the public education sector. And given my own personal story with dealing with toxic family backgrounds and breaking those generational patterns, a lot of the work that I had already done, particularly in the public educational system. Oh, I also worked in the correctional system for a couple of years too. I'm telling you,
You've got the wide range, Becky, of everything.
I I am a multi-passionate person, but everything boils down to if you look at a child's, and I don't want to generalize, but when you look at a someone who's been in the correctional system or juvenile detention or even in school, children who maybe have some behavioral issues and things of that nature, it's something that stems in childhood. I was very fortunate that I turned out the way that I did, even given my background and the way that I was raised. I am the exception to the rule. And I believe that I should be the exception to the rule. There should be more people like me who have that ability and need that guidance to choose a different path. You don't have to walk the same path that your family members did or your parents did or whoever is else is trying to manipulate your story. I think that people just need that option. They need to know that guidance is out there. And it's my intent. I used to not share my story because for a long time there was shame around it. Who says they cut off their parents? It's definitely not something that comes up in polite conversation. And if it does, it's how do you do that? And you have 4 children, they don't know their grandparents, and all the whole thing comes out. And I think people need to be supported around that decision. And maybe it's not even going no contact. Maybe it's just setting up very clear boundaries and being able to make those decisions that you can still have a relationship with them if you choose to, but in a healthy way. And I really feel in sharing my story and my experience and what I've gone through in all the areas of my life has led me to this moment. So the next 6 months for me, maybe the next year, I'm thinking of writing a book.
Oh,
I've
good.
done a lot of forgiveness work, inner forgiveness, forgiveness for myself, forgiveness to the universe, forgiveness for my parents, even. So I'm working on that. Got a little sneaky Google Doc on my drive that I get to when I have a few minutes. But really, I've been working on a coaching program, 8 weeks to breaking free from toxic and narcissistic cycles. And that has been my pet project for a little bit because every time I talk to someone, they're like, "Oh, I know somebody," or themselves. And again, it's not something you hear in regular conversation, but in private little conversations, it comes up. And I'm a big proponent of what's done in the dark comes to the light. So if we shine a little light on this issue,
There's gonna be more
more
coming
people
out of the
will.
woodworks. Yep.
Exactly.
So in your program, for your 8-week program, what kind of tools do you use to teach women to overcome some of these obstacles that you've faced in your life?
Absolutely. One of the first things that I realized and that I had to deal with myself was I spent a lot of years wishing my family were different. And you can't go back and change the past, right? You don't get a do-over. But what you can do is what I tell people is reparent yourself. You may have not had the parenting or the upbringing that you wanted to, but you can go back, be kind to that inner child that maybe is a little broken, and then start rewriting your story. So it's a lot of inner child work, then you're rewriting your story, and then you're moving forth with a different legacy. So it's definitely a lot of introspection, a
Okay.
lot of tangible tools, because I think people respond differently. Some people are very good with affirmations, guided meditations, journaling. And again, my method, whatever it takes, I will give you whatever tool it takes for you to move past. Because the ultimate goal for me, again, having worked in corrections, public education, and seeing the things that I did, my mission is to make it so that we're not raising the next generation of broken children.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. So you're looking, helping people look at themselves, their younger selves, probably like with a lot of compassion and grace, and then giving them tools that like you can change this narrative moving forward for you, your life, and your relationship with yourself more than anything, and relationship with others in being empowered with new ways of being, I think. Is that
Yeah,
what I'm hearing?
absolutely. Yeah, a whole
Awesome.
new story. And again, it's not just then healing yourself, but again, I think it trickles down. Like in my instance, I was fortunate enough that my great grandmother was still alive until I was 35 years old. So I was able to see 5 generations of these cycles play out. And having the degree in psychology that I did, I was able to look at my father, then his mother, and then even hearing stories of my great great grandfather. And I'm like, wow, it stretches back so far. And I'm like, I can't, like, knowing what I know, I can't allow this to continue.
Oh, good.
And that's when I started that inner work. Like, I literally saw it play out. Even within my own children, I became a mom at a pretty young age. My oldest is nearly 22. And I was not the person that I am today when I raised him. And his experience in life has been very different than what my younger children are experiencing. I was a different mom,
Oh, I'm sure.
and I hadn't done the work yet. And the difference between his behaviors and his attitude now is very, you can tell it was almost like they were parented by 2 different women, for sure. So I had to forgive myself for that too, like not knowing what I didn't know and not being the mom that he needed, and even going back to him and apologizing. We joke about it now because we have that same dry, sarcastic humor. And
Mhm.
I was your first baby, so I was a test baby. I'm like, yeah, you were the test baby. So that's we're able to do that now, but it was true, and it's some work that I had to do for sure.
Yeah. And it's just, oh, it's just seeing that it's just a testament to me that the cycles can be broken. You're talking about the generations before
Yeah,
that. But and that's the thing that I think is amazing is just that we can look at something and see how it can change and be better, and we can break that. And also maybe even too, I mean, you talked about forgiveness, like giving compassion to those before because they didn't know any different in some
right.
respects, not 100%, but it's just like seeing they did what they knew, but then there is an opportunity for when you actually see it for what it really is. This is not the way that I want, and I want to do something different. And yeah. So
Absolutely.
so good. Oh, Becky, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. We've covered a ton of stuff today from advocacy work, education, breaking cycles and stuff. And just to wrap things up, I've got a few little rapid fire questions for you
Shoot,
that
go
we want
ahead.
to share. So, what is your favorite book that you think everyone should read?
Right now, and it's hard for me because on a good year when life isn't crazy, I can easily read 100 books a year. I'm a self-professed book nerd. Right now, I'm really loving Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. She's the book was it was pivotal for me in starting to do the work that I'm doing now. So I would definitely plus when you do buy her book, it actually the proceeds are going to feed America. I feed like Stop Hunger in America, something where it's a food bank. Also good cause.
Good. Oh, I'll have to look into that one. What's
Yeah.
something exciting that you have done in the past year?
Oh, we went to Disney actually last month. Both of my girls were able to dance in now it's Disney Springs. I still call it downtown Disney with their dance studio. They were actually unofficial cast members for a day and got to go behind the scenes and were treated like cast members. And it was a great experience for them. And we love watching them do what they love to do.
Yeah,
It
oh,
was
fun.
amazing.
I went to Disney Springs in June for the first time, so it was fun.
Yeah.
And then other stuff there too. But so, where is a place that you would love to visit?
Oh, there are so many. Right now, I think Scotland, we're also big, my daughters and I were big Harry Potter fans, and we know that the castle was modeled after some of them in Scotland, so it's on our bucket list to go
Bucket
and see
list.
them in person. Yeah.
Oh, good for that. That's an awesome one. And then if lastly, if you had a chance to meet anyone, who would it be and why?
Oh, I just answered this question somewhere not too long ago, and I can't remember what I said. Who would I want to meet? Oh, I think I'd actually want to sit down with Jamie Kern Lima just to tell her how amazing her book was and how much it helped me for sure.
That's awesome. And you probably have a very long conversation with that.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
just
I think her story mimics a lot of the stories that I had and a difficult upbringing and still being able to, again, rise to something else and something greater for sure.
awesome. So this very last question might go along with what you just said, but fast forwarding to the end of your life, what's one thing that you would tell your younger self?
It's going to work out in the end.
So good. You're a testament of that, Becky. Just
I'm trying.
it's working out. I mean, it's not the end, but it's you probably have seen tons of change just even the last year in with
Yes.
yourself and even in the last 5 years or 10 years or how long it's been. So with that. So well, awesome. Thank you so much, Becky, for being here. Will you tell us just where can people find you?
Yeah, my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn profiles are all my handle is Becky the Cycle Breaker. I'm still working on my website, but those are my main hangouts where I like to post content. And yeah, that's I'm pretty easy to find, I think.
Oh, good. We will link some of those here in the bottom of this video here on YouTube so that you can connect with Becky. And so thank you again so much, Becky. We appreciate you and you sharing the ways that you find guidance from the universe and from the divine that is guiding you in your life and in your journey. And I know that as we all move forward, we can find that guiding hand in each of our lives in whatever way it comes. And it's different. And the thing is, the magical thing about it It's different for everyone, and that is what we love. So thanks again so much for being here. We will be back with you soon.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.